Hey Right Riders, Keith Wheeler here, back with another video for you. And today we're going to talk about innocent KDP terminations. And what I mean by innocent terminations is that these are people that unknowingly are going against KDP's terms of service. So I'm going to share with you the top 7 reasons I've seen why people are getting their accounts terminated, and they're doing it innocently. They don't realize they're making mistakes. So if you're excited to hear these, then give that thumbs up a smashy. And with that, let's get started. Let me first start off by saying that yes, I'm talking about Amazon KDP in particular, but that being said, most of these are going to be violations of terms of service regardless of what platform you're on. But right now, Amazon KDP has been terminating people for things like this. So the first reason is something that actually came to me from a viewer. They were actually breaking this rule and didn't realize it. They had all good intentions, and it is taking a no content or low content book and turning it into an ebook. The thought process behind that is that people could then put it on look at it on their iPads, maybe use a PDF app or something like that, and they can do, do the puzzles on there or fill it in or whatever. And that goes against Amazon's terms of service. So for an ebook, they want the majority of the content to be words. They want it to be something that's read. This is not something that is like a PDF filler app or anything like that. It's an ebook, a book meaning they want it to have words in it. If you're creating ebooks out of your no content, low content, or even middle content books, then that's going to be a violation of KDP's terms of service, and again, most platforms as well. So the second innocent mistake that people might be making is trademark violations. I've seen plenty of people create books that are super simple, and so what do? They call it blank for dummies. Well, for dummies, it's a trademark. It's a series of books, and so they've trademarked that. Other things are like the official guide to Pokemon. Well, Pokemon is trademarked. Or even an unofficial guide to Pokemon. Again, Pokemon is still trademarked. And so you need to do your due diligence. And new trademarks are going up and other trademarks are dying out every single day. And so what you really need to do is go and do your due diligence and look up trademarks. Now, I'm going to include a link down in the description to the USPTO trademark search box that I use. But, depending on what country you're in, you may need to check with them and see what the trademark site is for that particular country. But again, I'll include a link to the USPTO link to test, so you can do your due diligence and do trademark checks. So I always do it whenever I'm coming up with, first of all, if I'm coming up with an idea and I think that it may be trademarked, I'll check. And then when I create the title, I check and make sure that nothing in the title is trademarked. Because again, even when I start writing the book, if it takes me a month to write the book, a month ago, it might not have been trademarked, but now it might be. Conversely, it might have been trademarked a month ago, and now it's, the trademark has lapsed, and so now it's dead, and so now it's okay. So again, you really need to check and see whatever you're using if there's a trademark on it. The third mistake that people make, and this is something that's very common, you'll get this verbiage from KDP emails quite frequently, and that is misleading content. But what does misleading content mean? Misleading content is actually one of the most broad topics that you can have, because it can include anything from words that you're putting in there, like in your title or subtitle, like maybe you're calling it a box set. A box set is not something, it's not really a box, especially if it's an ebook. You're not creating a box. When you're not putting a bunch of books in a box like you would get at Barnes and Noble or other bookstores like that. And so Amazon looks at that as misleading the customer, making the customer think that they're going to get it in a box, and they're not. So using words like that. Also, KDP keywords. Keep in mind that KDP keywords have different rules than Amazon ads keywords. So for example, in Amazon ads, I can use other authors' names, I can use other book titles, I can use all of that in my Amazon ads keywords to target. You cannot use them in your KDP keywords in the back of your KDP. So in those 7 keyword slots on KDP, you can't use authors' names or book titles or anything like that. So you really need to be able to differentiate between those. Another thing that might be qualified as misleading conduct is keyword stuffing. Amazon's #1 priority is their customers and the customer experience. So when a customer sees a title and the title of the book is the title of the book and then, 8.5 by 11 children's picture book for children, boys ages 8 to 10, that is keyword stuffing. And, back in 2014, a lot of people were doing that and promoting it and saying that it worked because, well, it did. But nowadays, Amazon does not want that. They want a better user experience. And so keyword stuffing in your title and your subtitle and in your book description, I'll get to that in a second, those are all completely turnoffs for KDP Amazon. And so you can definitely get flagged for that. So one thing when I talk about the book description, it's okay to put keywords in your book description. It's okay to put keywords in your title and subtitle, as long as they make sense, as long as it flows, as long as it sounds like a normal conversation you would have. Keyword stuffing is when you just shove a bunch in there and it's clear what you're doing. It's clear that you're doing it for the algorithm. The way I like to look at it is, if a person is reading this, whether it's the title, the subtitle, the book description, does it make sense? Remember, you're writing the title, the subtitle, and the book description for a person, not for the system, not for the algorithm. If it looks like you wrote it for the algorithm, if it looks like you wrote it for the system to show your book more, and it doesn't flow, then that's a good flag that it's probably keyword stuffed. Another thing that can qualify as misleading content is having a cover that mimics another book or mimics another author or whatever, their design or pattern too much. It's okay to look at others in your niche that are successful and get inspiration, but there's a difference between being inspired by it and copying it or mimicking it. And so if there's a really successful book in your niche or a successful author in your niche, and you create a cover that looks very similar to theirs, and it mimics maybe the color scheme, the pattern, whatever. Maybe you create an author name that's very similar to theirs, like maybe creating a Stephen King, but you spell Stephen differently. That kind of stuff is misleading content because you're trying to trick your readers into thinking that you're someone you're not. And Amazon KDP absolutely does not want that because they don't want their customers tricked. They want their customers to have a good experience. So all of that and a whole lot more can be qualified as misleading content. The fourth mistake that people might make, and me calling this innocent is me being very generous, and that is rank manipulation. Now, that may sound like, oh, I'm not doing anything, to manipulate my bestseller rank or anything like that. But let me explain to you what I'm talking about. Things like buying or trading reviews, review swaps, things like that. You may do it with the best of intentions. You just want to get your book more visibility and more social proof or whatever. But deep down that the person reviewing that is not a real customer. They're not a normal customer. They're not reviewing it because they read the book and loved it. They're reading it because you swapped with them or because you paid them or whatever. Again, that's giving misleading information, misleading content to your end reader or potential reader or buyer, which again, Amazon wants their customers to have a good experience. And so I say that this is being generous because most of the time, if you're doing things like buying or trading reviews, that what you're doing, even if you don't know it goes against their terms of service, you still know it's not authentic. It's not, actual organic, readers leaving their reviews. And so keep that in mind. This is the kind of stuff that Amazon, again, is really starting to crack down on. Another example of this, of the rank manipulation, is paying people or reimbursing people for buying your book. Again, those aren't real buyers. They didn't really buy your book if you're paying them back or you gave them money ahead of time, okay? So again, trying to manipulate the rank to get your book more visibility is something that Amazon is not a fan of, and they will definitely crack down on that. And again, I say Amazon KDP, but all platforms have pretty much the very similar terms of service. Now, the fifth innocent mistake that people might be making is having multiple KDP accounts. Now, I do believe that in some cases this is being innocent. You know, there are people that whether they've been taught this through YouTube videos they've seen that are older or whatever, you know, that they have to have a different KDP account for each author name they use. And that's not the case. Think of it this way. Your KDP account is your business, okay? Regardless of what name you use, regardless of whether you've got no pen names, 10 pen names, 100 pen names, doesn't matter. It's still your business. So you need one KDP account for your business. This is very clear in their terms of service. This one isn't in a lot of legalese. It's very clear that it says one KDP account per household. And these are things, and I'm going to get to that later, but if you're violating it now, even though you haven't been caught, it doesn't mean you won't be, okay? And I'll explain in a little while how you can still get caught, even though you know it went through the system fine earlier. So keep that in mind. The sixth reason why KDP might terminate an account is offensive content. Things like hate speech, excessive violence. You know, I'm not talking about like a horror book and things like that. I'm talking about actual physical, excessive description of physical violence. Promoting racial or other discrimination, things like that is a really big thing that Amazon is cracking down on. And that can include not necessarily race, but that can be based on gender preference, you know, relationship preference, whatever. So any kind of hate speech or anything like that is a quick way to get not only your book taken down, but your account terminated. And the seventh reason why your account could get terminated is low quality content. We've all seen them. We've all seen books that clearly were just thrown together in a matter of minutes, maybe an hour, and then published on the platform, you know, like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. You know, a garbage cover, garbage interior, thrown together and just put up there, fingers crossed that it sells. We've all seen written books that are riddled with typos, that have grammatical errors, that are maybe clearly written by someone who doesn't have a good grasp of the language that book was written in. So if it's a book written in English, maybe English isn't their first or even second language. You know, you can tell by reading it that it didn't go to an editor, that it didn't even go through a spell checker, you know, a free spell checker with Microsoft Word or Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, and I'll include links to those down in the description as well. We've all seen those type of books. Similarly, maybe the book is actually well written, you know, it doesn't have grammatical errors, it doesn't have typos, but it's clearly written by somebody who knows absolutely nothing about the topic of the book. Either way, it's low quality. You know, if someone is spending their hard-earned money, if Amazon's customers are spending their hard-earned money to buy your book, and then they see that it's not helpful, you know, either you don't know what, you know, the author didn't know what they were talking about. They saw that this was a hot topic, and so they wrote something, or they paid somebody to write something, or it's, you know, it's got all these errors in it. If it's a low quality content, Amazon will take that book down. And if you have too many issues like that, they will close your account. Now, I talked about earlier how your book may fall against one of the, you know, may go against one of these 7 things that I've talked about, but it got through, so it's okay, right? It's safe, right? No, it's not. And a lot of people are finding that out the hard way. You know, they've had books that are published and making them money, and then a year or two later, their account gets terminated, and they have no clue why. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that, you know, one bad book may not get your account terminated, but at the bottom of every product page on Amazon is a report button. When Amazon KDP gets alerted to the same product being reported by the customers, by real customers, it doesn't take long for them to throw the hammer down and start, you know, taking down books and closing accounts. So even if your book got through, you know, and again, you could be innocent. You didn't know that you were violating it, okay? You didn't know that you were making mistakes. And that's kind of why I'm doing this video is one, to clarify for people who have already gotten their KDP account terminated and didn't really get a good reason from Amazon KDP, then, you know, maybe this has helped. But also for people that have unintentionally violated the terms of service and haven't got caught yet, hopefully if one or more of these things, you know, are a red flag to you, you can go back to your account and make changes, so that way you can fix it before Amazon finds it and closes your account. So you can be much more proactive about it. So those are the reasons why I created this video. You know, there are multiple ways that KDP can close down an account or find something that got through before. One is, again, by people reporting it, especially things like the low quality content. That it's not going to take long before readers pay money for it, and then they get mad and they just, you know, will report it. And if that happens enough times, again, it's a red flag. Also, similarly, that even without reporting it, if Amazon starts getting a lot of returns for a book, that's another red flag. There's a reason why people are returning this book. There must be something wrong with it. And so then they'll look at your book and your account that way. But a third way is throughout the life cycle of Amazon KDP, and throughout the year as it goes, there are certain things that are going to kind of bubble to the surface. Things that they're going to find out is, okay, this is an issue that's really starting to get out of control. And then they'll create a system, a bot, to go through and look for that particular issue. And that issue will change. You know, a few years ago, it was, you know, putting links to link to different parts of your book, you know, to try to take advantage of the KDP Select program. And so, you know, they got through, then Amazon realized that this was an issue. And so then they created a bot that would search for that, close down those accounts. And so the three main ways that KDP and Amazon are finding these things, and how your book can get through the first time, but then get caught maybe a day, a month, a year, 10 years later, you know, is either getting reported on, too many returns, or there's something that other people are doing. Maybe your account didn't get flagged, maybe your books didn't get flagged, but somebody else's did, and whatever they were doing wrong, now Amazon says, okay, let's start looking for this kind of issue, and you could be breaking that. Now, I will be honest, this is an extensive list. I gave you 7 different things, but these are the 7 most popular that I've seen. And so hopefully you're not violating any of these, either intentionally or unintentionally. If you are, hopefully, if you still have your account, you can go back and readdress these. Because I will say, when it comes to being, innocent about it, is if you don't know you're making the mistake, not only could you make the mistake once, but it got through, so KDP didn't tell you there was anything wrong with it. So then now you've done it 10, 15, 20, 100 times, who knows? And so, again, it's really important to look at the terms of service of whatever platform you're on. But I know it's in legalese and it's hard to read. So again, these are just 7 of the top reasons I've seen why people are innocently getting their accounts terminated. Now, believe it or not, Amazon KDP is not the only game in town. It's not the only place that you can self-publish books. So if you have gotten your KDP account terminated, or you haven't, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, then check out this entire series right here, which is all about publishing books off of Amazon. Now, if you've already seen that series, or maybe you're not interested in that, then YouTube says that this video right here has got your name written all over it. I'll catch you in one of these, and remember to write right.